faster internet experience with 25 times faster upload speeds than cable. Visit att.com/25 times faster. Limited availability in select areas based on Internet 1000 wired upload connection speed. First major cable providers 1 gig service with uploads of 35 megabits per second. Restrictions apply.
All families are different, and so is the way they do their laundry. Some people wash on cold, some use a delicate cycle, and some wash everything all at once. With Tide Pods, it all works, so everyone's way is the right way. If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide. Tide is proud to partner with iHeartRadio in supporting Can't Cancel Pride and the LGBTQ+ community. Learn more at can'tcancelpride.com.
Smart and Final celebrating 150 years and planning a 4th of July barbecue that swings like it's 1946. Before you grill your burgers, save some dough. Ass avocados are 69 cents a piece, limit 12.
Smart and Final, one trip the best day.
Register and get yours at ncablackouts.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Pocket Summer Companion. For this long weekend of fun, we've got thousands of free playlists to help ignite your backyard barbecue and light up your 4th of July fireworks show. From patriotic anthems to summer hits, you're sure to find one that will fit any mood or activity you have planned. Check them out today. Open the free iHeart app and tap the playlist tab. iHeart, #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one app.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 29th, 2021. Going to the Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. The Vidi Vidi Vici. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, we're doing ecstatically down here, Charlton. It's hot as hell, and, we're not on life support like the Los Angeles Clippers, who had an air of desperation in their breath out there in the desert the other night. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They always have a defibrillator for them, Charlton.
They always got something for them, Big C. The Clippers are going to win this series in 7 games. It's all fair and level. Where I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C at the Mystic. He'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing the same way joggers pause when they're running in the heat when it's 100 degrees in Northern California, but it's all fair in love and war. But I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones. Big C, more people are doing it from sea to shining sea. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's great that more people are participating in suicide awareness in America, Charlton. It's a horrific disease that has gone without the attention that it deserves for decades.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we lose over 24 veterans a day to this horrific disease, Charlton, because it has gone unrecognized in American public. People don't want to speak about it. They talk about it as an embarrassment. But it's mental illness, which so many people want to shy away from, Charlton. Let's not talk about it. Now is not the time to talk. It is always a good time to talk about mental illness, Charlton, in America, and mental awareness is what we have to stay on top of as a culture. When we talk to people, we have a sense to be able to ease somebody's mind or have an understanding of what they're going through.
Yeah.
When you let somebody keep something cooped up in them all the time, Charlton, that's when that powder keg wants to explode, and unfortunately, it hasn't always turned out good for so many people. So as we address the issue of mental awareness in America, let's talk about it more just like we talk about the physical health of an athlete, the well-being of an athlete. Let's talk about the well-being of the mental mind in America, Charlton, and help stop suicide.
Yeah, that's why I love coming on our show every day and doing our part. You got to reach out and touch somebody's hand. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers to put their property listings on TV, putting people back to work just like McDonald's does it, Nike does it, car dealerships are doing it, sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. Also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our sponsors from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Man, I'm telling you, there's so much going on in this great country. We have soccer going on in the United States, and in fact, all over the world. People are, especially in Europe, really getting deep into soccer. Big C. We have the college baseball World Series. We have the hockey teams on ice, wasting all that good ice trying to chase down Lord Stanley's Cup. Big C, it's all fair and level war. And then we have the great game of NBA basketball because it's fantastic. I want to start out a little bit with NBA basketball. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's just Paul George flying by, Big C. King Paul George. He was living off the wall like the great king of pop, the great Michael Jackson, Big C, dropping 41 points and splashing any doubters as Chris Paul is flopping and faking his way like a fish out of the water, and they suffer a 14-point blowout. You're seeing future Hall of Famers, in my opinion, but one is flopping for an audition for a flop contest, the other trying to drop 41 points. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as the game last night in Phoenix, I mean, the Clippers were playing in desperation mode. You could see a team with a sense of urgency, and you saw that all night long. I mean, this is a team that knew that they could not have a physical or mental lapse in the game because this series and season would have been over at that point. And they responded. This is what you expect from a professional team, is that you have to go out there, and when it's all on the line, you got to leave it all on the line. And the Clippers did that last night.
Yeah, the Clippers did that last night down in the valley of the desert. But what they forgot to realize, there's another guy that played in the valley called the San Joaquin Valley, and his name is DeMarcus Cousins. And he brought a little bit of machismo, had 15 points in just about 11 minutes, Big C. That good boy should have been a starter all along. It's all fair and love and war. But I want to take you to just my thoughts on the game, and everybody has their own thoughts on the game. I think the Clippers will win this series in 7 games, Big C. It's all fair and love and war. When the great Paul George played arguably his best game of his career, most importantly, the most important game of his career, I think Paul George, and I was looking up earlier, I think he's played more minutes than anyone in the playoffs up to date. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, they needed every minute that he put in, Charlton. I mean, he's been able to respond. You've seen times of fatigue in this series from Paul George, but when they really needed it last night, being down 3-1, he was able to endure and have one of the better games of his career. He's had a 50-point game before in his playoff career when he was in Indiana. But this was a pressing time. I mean, and now you've really got to question, does the Clippers really need Kawhi Leonard?
That's a very good question, Big C. The answer is yes, because he's played more minutes than anybody in the playoffs, but he's realized he's come out of that cocoon. He's no longer Robin, he's Batman. It's all fair and level. We're dropping 41 points, 13 rebounds. He had 6 assists, and he had 3 steals, a shooting line that looks too clean to even possibly exist, Big C. 75, 50, and 100. Big C, that's like Mount Rushmore numbers, Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, he was fantastic from the floor last night when you think about it. I mean, this was a coming-out party of ways for Paul George to show on the grandest of stages that he could compete. I mean, the last time he was in this position, you know, it was against Miami when he was in Indianapolis when LeBron James and the Heat knocked him out of the playoffs in a Game 7, Charlton. But, you know, he's had an opportunity once again to resurrect himself. He didn't have the success when he was in OKC with Russell Westbrook. But now he's the lead dog there with the Clippers, Charlton, and he's taking the reins. Yeah. And he's run with it.
Yeah, he's running with it, all while facing elimination on the road without his best teammate, Big C. Monday night was supposed to be Chris Paul's coronation. I think Chris Paul thought he was auditioning for a State Farm commercial. It's called The Fish. You get next to him, and he flops on the ground as if he's hit by Mike Tyson. And I'm glad these seasoned officials are not dealing with that. Chris Paul's too good a person for that garbage. And I would hope that the NBA would get smart. If a player's flopping, it should be a technical foul, or at least a T1, that's my opinion. Chris Paul's too good for that, Big C. And I want to ask you also, I know you're not a great jump shooter, but at the same time, when players are taught to shoot jump shots, they're not taught to kick their feet out and flop on the ground like Steph Curry. I've seen him shoot jump shot after jump shot after jump shot. The best shooter in the NBA, he never flops on the ground. He follows through, Big C, your thoughts?
You may not be watching James Harden in because he does that on every shot he takes from the arc, Charlton. And also in the previous game, before this, you have to admit that Paul George flopped when Chris Paul touched him on the waist one time when he fell out of bounds, and he acted like Chris Paul pushed. We've seen a lot of egregious calls by the officials, but, you know, you're going to sit there and say one side gets an advantage over the other. I don't know if we can go that direction, but, you know, both sides have been treated unfairly by the officials throughout this playoff series, Charlton. But it comes down to putting the ball in the basket. Which team is most efficient? Yeah. And last night you saw that from the Clippers. They ran with efficiency. Yeah. And DeMarcus Cousins, I think he was the spark to the game even more than Paul George. Yeah. Because when you look at the points that he scored in the first 5 minutes of the game, you have to say he set the tone for the Clippers. You haven't seen him play like that since he was in Sacramento. For some reason, he got a shot of courage last night in his backside, Charlton, and took it out on the court with him. But, you know, that's what they needed. They needed a spark from one of the non-X-Factor players, Charlton, and they got that from Cousins.
Yeah, Tyronn Lue got to understand that. That's too good a muscle to be leaving on the bench. Back to Chris Paul, the coronation. His chance to reach the finals for the first time to do so in front of his home fans. Instead, you have the great King Paul George snatched it from him and extended a series that a lot of people had thought going into it that it would be over and had no reason going 6 games. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think the Clippers are going to cut down the nets. It's all fair and level war. The game is not only the best of Paul George's career, but also maybe the most important, as some people think. Big C, are you buying that? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it kept the team alive. I mean, any game that you keep your team alive in a series is the most important game that you ever play. Yeah. Because when you're down 3-1, all it takes is one more loss, Charlton, to be out of the series. Yeah. And without his performance last night, they're catching that plane with the Lakers heading wherever they can go to. Yeah, the Lakers they're sitting on the dock of the ocean. It's all fair and level war. But, you know, we talk about Paul, we talk about Ayton and Booker, and you talk about the great, you know, George is all fair and level war. But Marcus Morris Sr., who played for Phoenix earlier in his career, if you recall, he dropped 22 points. He was 9 of 16 shooting, Big C. The great DeMarcus Cousins, as you mentioned, he put in 15 points in just about 10 minutes. And when you think about it, in the first half, he was so impressive. He even had a steal from I think it was Chris Paul. He stole the ball away from him, went down and dunked it. But another player that played, I believe he played at Boston College over there in Beantown, Big C. That little boy was doing his thing. Reggie Jackson dropped in 23 points, and they've been called the feisty Clippers. They staved off elimination by beating Phoenix. It was 116-102, a 14-point blowout, Big C, at home in Phoenix. And I believe they've won. They have a combined point total, like Tyronn Lue talked about. They're plus 16, if the math is right, plus 16 in their series so far, Big C. Your thoughts? Well, the plus 16 is really not a factor when you're minus 3-2. I mean, that's the critical math right there, that you're minus 3-2.
I think you're going to see, as they cut down the nets in Game 7, why it matters. Like a golfer, it matters what you do on each hole. You can't just go down the back 9 of the 18th hole. It's all getting there. I want to turn your thoughts to something, too, because I think that staged broken nose that Devin Booker has, kind of like Steve Nash had back in the day, same broken nose, same tape I even think they used, Big C. But the great Devin Booker led the Suns 31 points. Paul, who's trying to go to the NBA Finals for the first time in his 16-year career, added 22 points, 8 assists. DeAndre Ayton had only 10 points. There were so many people that said, you want to crown him, crown him. The great Dennis Green said, no, don't crown him. In fact, DeMarcus Cousins, when he showed up, I think he put a little fear in DeAndre Ayton's eyes. You saw a guy that's big and physical, He's the real though. He's not that fake tough guy, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you put the fear in his eye. I mean, you had a guy with fresh legs who's been sitting on his butt for several weeks, Charlton, and he got an opportunity to go out there and run up and down the floor. You see that he played in stretches.
Yeah.
He couldn't play the entire game like Aiden can, Charlton. So, I mean, fresh legs always help when you bring him off the bench.
Or when you're having frog legs at those restaurants down south, the fresh of the leg. Why do some people serve 3 or 4 day old frog legs, Big C? Your thoughts?
Now, a little slimy, Charlton. Need mine fresh. Need that gaminess about it.
that gaminess about them. Don't serve 3 or 4 day old venison. You're hard to chew that stuff. But back to the great King Paul George, who put up 20-plus points in all 18 games that he's played this postseason. He's launched more minutes, Big C, logged more minutes than any player in the NBA playoffs this year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, but sometimes that comes with the rest, Charlton, and fatigue will eventually set in. I know players have the entire offseason to rest, so you go, to the wall with your athletic ability in the playoffs, but sometimes it will catch up with you.
Yeah, sometimes it can catch up to you, and I think it caught up with the Phoenix Suns last night. These are young kids. They don't have that grown man strength that the Clippers have developed over the past couple of years. The only other players in the NBA history to score at least 20 points in the first 18 games of a single NBA playoffs. Big C, that Mount Rushmore is very small. You have the great Michael Jordan, 92 to 97 and 98 seasons, the great Kobe Bryant in 2008, and then the great Kevin Durant in 2012 and 2018. Why is it so difficult with all these 50 great NBA players that we talk about over the years? Why are there only so few guys that have done that in 18 straight games, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they call champions, and all of those players have NBA championship rings.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I really love NBA basketball, and I hope that we have everybody. I mean, everybody can say what they want to say about these officials. We talk so much about Manfred, Big C, the Major League Baseball. It's amazing they don't bring more black men in and say, hey, this is what probably makes more sense. Just my opinion. The NBA has to figure out, do you want to be the league of flopping? And like Major League Baseball wants to have to figure out, do you want to be the league that does a body search on your players after people are paying hard-earned money? That's not what they come to a game to watch us all fair in love and war. I want to take you to a game that's going on tonight, especially down in the city of Atlanta where they have fresh frog legs. From what I understand, Big C, the frog legs are always fresh, and sometimes people can't tell the difference between a frog leg and a chicken wing. But Big C, what is the difference between tasting a frog leg and a chicken wing, Big C?
A frog leg is fresh, tender, and delectable. Chicken wing got to chew at it.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. Well, I won't ask you what a hawk tastes like, but the NBA playoffs in Atlanta, the NBA playoff universe, it shines on the city of Atlanta. They call it the ATL. And they can welcome the Milwaukee Bucks with no Southern hospitality. They got to bring them a lot of Southern hostility, Big C, if they have a chance to come back to the ATL. If they lose tonight, they'll probably get knocked out up in Milwaukee because everything's going to be going in their way with the officials. If there's a chance that Atlanta has, just like people were trying to write up the Clippers, but they had King Paul George and DeMarcus Cousins come off the bench, Big C. If there's anything that the Hawks can do to stop Milwaukee from coming into the South and still in 2 games, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is going to be very difficult. You got Trae Young with an ankle bruise, a bone bruise on his ankle, Charlton. You got Kevin Huerter. He's been hurt. So, I mean, they're on the limp. Collins, hit the floor hard the other night in the game. The thing that Milwaukee has to do, which they're the best team remaining in the playoffs, you got those 7-footers, just like I said prior to the last game.
Yeah.
If you keep those boys down in the paint, Charlton, you win the game. If you tell them you want them out there shooting threes, then you got a problem all night. When Atlanta's biggest man is 6'9", and they got 2 of them, and you got 2 7-footers who are more physically imposing than those 2 6'9" players that you have, and you got to play them like their position say.
Yeah.
They're post-up players. If you look at what Giannis took 2 shots from the three-point arc. He hit 1 last game.
Yeah.
But he hit all his other points, Charlton, in mid-range jumpers and from the paint.
Yeah.
And he still scored his average of 34 points.
Yeah.
So why do you want to keep him out on the arc? Keep he and Lopez inside, and they dominate the game. You saw Trae Young in the fourth quarter the other night after he sprung his ankle. He seemed not to have the desire to keep pushing up and down the floor.
Yeah.
But I noticed in the locker room when McMillan was talking to the players, and he had his boot off, Charlton, had his shoes and socks off. That ankle didn't look swollen to me.
No.
So I have to question his heart. Can he play with toughness in this next game?
Yeah, That's a very good question. Players got to find. We just talked about Taurasi, what she did, having a major issue, health issue, still came out and played with a lot of toughness. But I think what you said makes a lot of sense too, Big C, about 2 7-foot guys. Quit pretending that you want to be 6 feet tall. It's all fair and level war. There's nothing wrong with being 6 feet tall, Big C. But after Chris Middleton did his best Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant impression in the fourth quarter on Sunday, the Bucks are riding high in a come-from-behind victory and are up 2-1 in the ATL Big C in the Eastern Conference Finals. The biggest story, in my opinion, is that this game is down in Georgia, though the centers around the Hawks Trae Young's health. As you mentioned, his ankle did not seem like it was swollen. And last I checked, and I might be wrong, I'm not knocking the guy, but most athletes, when they get an ankle injury, they put ice on it. They don't just wrap it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, not only that, Charlton, you leave the tape on because the tape will reduce the flow of fluid into the ankle, which will not allow it to swell, Charlton. He didn't have any tape on his ankle. He didn't have any ice on his ankle. He seemed to be sitting there in the chair comfortably.
Yeah.
I remember going through situations like that, Charlton, spraining an ankle, playing a game. You wouldn't even cut the tape off. You would wear that tape home that night. You'd keep it iced with that tape on to restrict the fluid flow down into the ankle, Charlton, to reduce the swelling.
Yeah.
Trae Young did not seem to be doing any of that. So, like I said, I questioned his toughness when he went down. Was he just mentally tired and defeated and say, I'll use this as an excuse and I'll limp into the locker room and come out? But he had no heroics left in him, Charlton. I didn't see him hustling after that injury. And if you go back and look at several other players in the playoffs that went down with ankle injuries, they came back and played, Charlton, with enthusiasm.
Yeah, so you're saying no Isaiah Thomas showed up that night, Big C, your thoughts?
I'm saying a whole lot of players did not show up that night, Charlton. I look at Devin Booker when he had to go get stitches. He came right back out of the locker room, Charlton, and played with enthusiasm with the mask on his face.
Yeah.
I've seen players go down with the knees and all that, Charlton, in the playoffs that we've had. But when I saw Trae Young, I just saw a guy that looked empty mentally at that point.
Yeah, McMillan has to work on his starting lineup tonight. The game's already doing their thing on the TNT network. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, P.J. Tucker has been just very physical. The great King Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez out of Fresno San Joaquin Memorial. Big C. Trae Young for the Hogs, Bogdanovich, Kevin Huerter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. Clint Capella has to play like that Lion King tonight unless he just wants to go home and lay down. If there's any chance of him turning into what DeMarcus Cousins did for the Clippers last night, Big C, do we have that in Clint Capella, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, if you look at Clint Capella's stat line, Charlton, throughout this series, it's been better than DeMarcus Cousins, been equal to what DeMarcus Cousins did last night. What you saw from the DeMarcus Cousins last night was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't, then he'd have been in the starting lineup all year long, and he wouldn't be on his fourth NBA team, Charlton, in 4 years.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, this is a guy that lacks consistency in the NBA.
Yeah, I know he had a couple of injuries along the way, too, but if he gets his groove back, he's a dominant player. If he gives you 15 points in the attitude that it brings with him, it's going to help a lot for the Clippers. Congratulations to the Clippers for splashing out the fire. And they say in California you got to put fires out when you leave a campground. The Clippers were camping last night in Phoenix, Arizona, and they used some water to put that fire out. It's all fair and level. Well, we'll see if the Hawks can put out those deer hunters coming in to the city of Atlanta being invaded by bucks, Big C. I don't know if those bucks are going to make it out of the barbecue grills in Atlanta, but it's all fair and level war. I want to throw a congratulatory statement, Big T, to a guy that I know you're very fond of. You saw him play a lot in college. University of Memphis, their head coach, Penny Hardaway, they won the NIT, Big C, has emerged as a serious candidate to be the next head coach of the Orlando Magic, where he used to do his thing, Big C. He was already interviewed with the team, and I think as a star in Orlando for 93 to 99 seasons, so he played there about 6 years. In his 6 seasons there, he was a 4-time All-Star, Big C, an All-NBA first team 2 times, an All-NBA third team 1 time. He played in the NBA for 14 seasons, Big C, before retiring in 2007. And Hardaway has been coaching the Tigers, his alma mater, since 2018. Not only is he a good fit, but he can go right back home. Like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz said, there's no place like home, Big C, your thoughts?
You know, I think if Orlando wants to appease the fan base, Charlton, this is the proper move to make. You bring in Penny Hardaway. He's been developing young talent at the University of Memphis, Charlton. So you think about where the Orlando Magic is. They have 3 first-round draft picks in the current draft coming up.
Yeah.
You bring in this man who knows how to work with the young talent, Charlton, because you know all those players that they draft are going to be young.
Yeah.
Give him an opportunity to hone that talent, Charlton. You're going to have patience from the home fans, Charlton, because they were there when he came in as a rookie, and he and Shaq was a dynamic duo, and they made it to the NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets. So can he bring that same magic back to this organization, no pun intended, and get them back in their winning ways?
He will bring back the magic, Big C, and if he doesn't bring it back, they even have, I think it's called Disney World down there where magic happens at Disney World. He should bring that magic back. It's all fair and level war. I really love the fact that more and more people are getting that opportunity. I want to bring up, because it's important that we cover all the sports. I know the men's sports get a lot more attention, national attention. But the thing with Penny Hardaway, I'm not trying to be like I'm naive. The fact that 3 African-American head coaches, Big C, that you always advocate for, are coaching in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, 3 of 4. As some of my friends say, that guarantees Milwaukee's going to get crowned NBA championship based on how shenanigans and mainstream do things. But is that opening more doors now for African-Americans, or is it just kind of, it's just time, Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, I don't know if it's opening more doors for African Americans. I think people are becoming more socially conscious. It's not about opening doors. It's about doing the right thing for once, damn it. I mean, this is where we've been in society forever. You've been recycling old white guys like you take plastic bottles to a recycling center in California. That's what the NBA has been about. And you got to stop doing that. I mean, you can't cash in on everything. And so they got to realize that we got to move forward and advance with the times. And when you're looking at the nouveau NBA players, if you go back 20 years, even 30 years, Charlton, in the NBA, when players were spending 3 and 4 years in college before coming out into the league. Now, Charlton, they spend an afternoon in college before they enter the league. And so you have to have somebody who's going to socially identify with these players because you can't make teammates babysitters. Coaches have huge roles to play. And if they can't identify with players socially, then they're not going to have control of their team.
Yeah, you always say you got to be the guy in the room when the decision's being made, and now just adding more people of color. As far as recycling coaches being like cans, I don't think anybody that's a recycled can's given several $1 million, Big C. Oftentimes they get about 10 cents a can, Big C, you're done.
Well, no, I mean, it's about the cumulative effect, Charlton. You bring a dump load in there, dump truck load, you're going to get a lot of money for it.
Yeah, maybe that's my problem. I'm saying when all these cans for $3, it costs $3 to drive down to the can place. It's all fair and level war. WNBA schedule. New York is at Atlanta. Atlanta has a lot. I don't know if there's enough chicken wings to be served up in Atlanta. You have New York. They're playing the Atlanta Big C down in the dirty South Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's an athletic town, Charlton. When you look at it, there's so many things that go on in that mecca of the South, Charlton. They do things to attract people.
Yeah, they do a lot to attract people. Also, UConn is at Washington. I wish everybody nothing but the best. Big C, before we come up on the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout, I just want to run across, again, I'm kind of torn. You ever been torn about something, Big C? But the NBA, you know, we talk about advocacy for people of color. To me, it doesn't matter what color you are. Right is right, wrong is wrong. But people can also atone. People can be accused of something they did not do. People can do something and hide it. But I want to ask your thoughts, because as men of color, I want to advocate, just like mainstream advocates for the old white guy to have his 7th job around NBA or college basketball and football players. The Portland Trail Blazers and the Dallas Mavericks, they turned back the misogyny clock with the coaching hires, just an opinion that some people have. So if you want to be a head coach in the league, it's better to have admitted to hitting a woman or having allegedly sexually assaulted a woman than to actually be a woman, Big C. On Friday, and again, everybody is a touchy subject, but the truth should set you free. On Friday, the Dallas Mavericks, they reached an agreement with Jason Kidd. The next day, the Portland Trail Blazers and the great Chauncey Billups were finalizing a deal that would make Billups their next head coach, Big C. On every show we advocate, there's no excuse for racism and domestic violence. Nobody should ever have to go through that garbage. Now, these are two well-known NBA names, having all-star multiple times in their careers. Jason Kidd previously was a head coach of the New Jersey Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. Billups has never been a head coach anywhere in the game and only became an assistant coach with the Los Angeles Clippers this season, Big C. It doesn't mean that we don't talk about this. There's more to their bios than that. And I just want to get your feeling, and we'll cover the second part after the Big C pause. But are they undergoing more criticism than they should based on they're not convicted, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you don't have to be convicted to have committed a crime. I mean, if you've been charged, I go back and Jason Kidd was convicted. When you think about Jason Kidd, the situation with Chauncey Billups, no, he wasn't convicted, but he went out and settled a civil suit.
Yeah.
So that's admitting guilt to a degree, Charlton, when you go out and you say, okay, I owe you X amount of money because I did something to you. And charges were dropped because of the civil settlement got settled. So, I know you talk about being an advocate against domestic violence and hitting women, Charlton, but Jason Kidd admitted that he hit his woman, his wife. And, he was arrested for drunk driving.
Yeah.
And so he put other lives in peril. I mean, it comes out. I mean, because you want to recognize somebody as an athlete and give them, an opportunity for a pass because they were an athlete. We saw Ray Rice with the Baltimore Ravens lose his job and his career in the NFL for beating up his girlfriend, now wife, in an elevator. We saw that with Kareem Hunt, who was Rookie of the Year in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. Jumps on a woman in the hallway in an elevator, kicks her to the ground. He gets cut by the Kansas City Chiefs because he lied about it, Jonathan, in the videotape surface. So, I don't care what the walk of life is of an individual. If people want to cheer for him on television because they can dribble a basketball, shoot it, and dunk it and all those things, and say that they're a hero. But you also got to bring up the negativity that they do, Jonathan. If you beat the crap out of a woman, you got to let the public know what type of individual he is in totality.
Yeah, Big Ben Roethlisberger, he was accused of assault about a decade ago in Tahoe, I believe, Big C. Also, Bob Kraft had his own shenanigans going on down in Florida. That was on videotape. It's all washed. It's all water under the bridge. It's all fair and level work. We're going to take the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. I want to come back and I want to talk more about that because, women listen to our program. I never want to ever turn my back on women because if we don't have conscientious men, they only get to deal with Neanderthals. We'll take the Big C pause. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our sponsors pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate that, especially for women. Especially for women, because oftentimes men are much stronger in those situations, and you shouldn't be able to just pay your way out of something. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a touchy subject because I don't want to be accused of something I did not do. And sometimes men settle because their attorneys tell them to settle, so you don't have a worse situation. And that's just a judge decision or a court decision. It's all fair and level war. But Jason Kidd, 48 years old. And again, I'm saying this because I want women to see both sides of everything. I'm neutral, Big C, but he's 48 years old, arrested January 2001 after his wife told police that he hit her during an argument over their 2-year-old son, which is horrible. Kidd pled guilty to spousal abuse. He was fined $200, Big C. That parking fines cost more than $200, Big C, in order to take anger management classes for 6 months. $200 is the most egregious part. A parking ticket, get your car towed, is $300. You strike a woman, you pay a $200 fine? That doesn't make any sense. But he pled guilty to driving while intoxicated. 2012, after police said his vehicle struck a telephone pole. I think it was Brett Reed in Kansas City that his vehicle struck 2 kids in the back of a car. So we don't advocate for anyone drinking and driving, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's an egregious situation all the way around. But you get preferential treatment. Brett Reed didn't get arrested. Who said that Jason Kidd got arrested? You get a slap on the wrist by a judge because of your star status. Hey, you got season tickets for the rest of the year. Whatever they got to do to get through these situations. Yeah. But the victim is always the person that's treated always unfairly in any of these situations.
Yeah. No, that's true, Big C. That's why, I don't have firsthand knowledge of it, but it's just all over the airways. Billups up in Portland, predominantly a Caucasian city, Big C. 44 years old, settled a civil case after the 1997 incident in which a woman said that Billups and his former teammate Ron Mercer had sexually assaulted her. Criminal charges were never filed, but police reports stated that a rape kit and examination of the victim showed injuries consistent with sexual assault. Billups and his awful baggage, the internet has blown up on the trial on the Trailblazers, leaving them in full damage control, all because they picked the wrong person, especially with a lot of people that are coming to this information. And I'm going to claim ignorant. I did not even know this happened until it was all over the internet today. But I want to get your thoughts and we'll close out because we weren't there. The Mavericks, my goodness, in 2018, a Sports Illustrated investigation uncovered a corporate culture rife with misogyny and predatory sexual behavior. Obviously, we just talked about Billups and Kidd. It seems like it may fit in if you believe that narrative. So what an indictment it is of today's NBA to realize that instead of shunning these men, the league could not wait to embrace them, endorse them, elevate them, give them a multi-million-dollar contract, and when they get in trouble, just a $200 court fine. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this has been the culture down with the Dallas Mavericks, Charlton. Mark Cuban pleaded no knowledge of what was going on within the ranks of the corporation there with the Dallas Mavericks, Charlton, when they had a culture of sexual abuse and discrimination within the Dallas Mavericks management.
Yeah.
We saw that going on and unfolding with lawsuits and all of that. So Jason Kidd is a perfect fit to fall in there and not be different from the culture that's going on there.
Yeah.
What we saw with Chauncey Billups, this was all over the news when it happened. You know, an inappropriate act that occurred with somebody when she woke up, she was unclothed, and, you know, sexual items were all around the bed where she was left at, Charlton. And so she went to the hospital.
Yeah.
Those charges were filed because it happened in the city where the individual happened to be a player and a marquee player at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back to the late Kobe Bryant. It was his incident in Colorado where he was charged with rape back there, Charlton, and did an out-of-court settlement to get the case dropped. You know, $8 million make a whole lot of people say, I don't remember what happened.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this has been an incident with a lot of NBA players. And you can't be an advocate for somebody, you know, assaulting somebody, Charlton, regardless of what they do for a living or regardless of how much money they make.
Yeah.
Yes, we can throw Robert Kraft into the incident, but his was not a situation of sexual assault, Charlton. His was a situation that he paid somebody. He gave money outright up front. We know that.
Yeah.
That's illegal also. Brett Reeves, he's in jail. He got arrested. You know, he's out on bail, but he got arrested. So, you know, the situation that you can't always compare somebody else to somebody else. We know what somebody did. And when you get advancements in life, Charlton, and other people that are qualified or overlooked who have a squeaky clean background, that's where the problem comes from. And people sitting back, when you look at Becky Hammond and you look at Don Staley, who interviewed for the job, two women coaches, Charlton, highly qualified, with squeaky clean backgrounds, who have never assaulted a man, nor a woman, and they get overlooked.
They get overlooked. Even Big Ben Roethlisberger had it. I think he had 2 cases that happened.
Yeah, I mean, Ben allegedly sexually assaulted a waitress in Lake Tahoe at the Pro-Am golf tournament. He allegedly sexually assaulted another waitress in Atlanta at a restaurant, Charlton, in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, all of those situations have been out there.
Yeah.
We see that. But comparing one guy to another is saying, okay, well, because he did it, it's okay for him to do it. Can't do that. Each individual situation stands on its own merit, not based on what somebody else did.
Yeah, there was a player that was released by the Seattle Seahawks also that battered his girlfriend, and they kind of hid it under the carpet, Big C. But it's all fair and love and war. I just think it'd be reckless if we did not bring it up, even though we're not the judge or the jury. It's all fair and love and war. I wish everybody, please be safe. Know your surroundings. Let people know where you are.
But one thing you never want to do, Charlton, you never want to compare a sexual assault or a battery of a woman to a situation somebody else did, because it almost sounds like you're an advocate for this. Well, he did it, so he did it. You can't do that. Each individual situation stands on its own merit.
Yeah, well, I'm not an advocate for that at all. I mean, I hope you're not.
No, but what I'm saying, when you say, well, Ben did it, Robert Kraft did it, you can't do that, because these are situations that talk about that. You don't go bring in the other situations that happens to a woman. Well, he beat up a woman. We know these things occur. But it's about the individual situation we're talking about at that point.
Yeah, well, I don't condone any of it by any sense of the word. And I think if somebody does anything and they're accused of something, you have a right to defend yourself. I don't condone anybody that hurts anybody, no matter what it is, legally or physically or whatever it is. It's all fair level war. I want to turn the page on that, Big C. People can Google that if they want to, but just make sure you stay safe. Everybody's speed dating nowadays. You're meeting up with people who've already dated 20 women that month or 20 men that month, and now here you come thinking that you're the one in shining, that one shining moment. You never know. There's a movie called Mr. Goodbar. Look up Mr. Goodbar back in the day. People should Google that the next time they go on that one shining moment that they swipe left or swipe right. It's all fair level war. Speaking of swiping left and swiping right, NHL playoff universe. Lord Stanley's Cup, Big C. The playoffs are famously unpredictable. And when you think about the Montreal Canadiens, upset teams favored to beat them in 3 consecutive rounds to reach the 2020-2021 finals. After all, but sometimes the team with the 18th best record, Big C, 18th best record in the NHL, they visit the defending Stanley Cup champion, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Big C. When lightning strikes, get out when you see lightning strike and get out, Big C. And when you think about it, things played out the way they were actually supposed to on paper, because when the lightning strikes, get out, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you have to understand, lightning is very hot, Charlton. And that's what the Tampa Bay Lightnings are right now, very hot.
Yeah.
They cut through the Montreal Habs in the first game of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, Charlton, like they were supposed to. You're the best team in the league, playing the 18th best team in the league.
Yeah.
You set out your level of dominance from start to finish in that game, and they serve notice to the Habs. This is our house.
Yeah, this is our ice. It's our lightning, too. You can bring your own lightning. They say you bring your own beer. When you bring your own lightning, it's like you thought you went to a Star Wars convention, Big C. Those lightsabers playing in front of approximately 16,000 Rockets fans. The Lightning, their biggest crowd since before the COVID-19 pandemic hit back in 2020. Game 1 meeting, the Canadiens and Tampa Bay Lightning, Big C, Monday at Emily Aurelia. It wasn't even close. Cinderella turned back into the old pumpkin, and then the champs proceeded to stomp the pumpkin into goo. When I get a pumpkin that doesn't perform, I like to make pumpkin seeds instead and pumpkin pie, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they were pumpkin mash last night after the game. And you think about the Lightning and what they did in this contest, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you want to leave no doubt in your opponent's mind that they really don't have a chance, you want to demoralize them when you get the opportunity. And when you have a team that as good as the Lightning have been all year long, Charlton, they've been tested a couple times here in the playoffs, getting to the Stanley Cup Finals, Charlton. But they let it be known last night that we want to repeat as Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, they want to open up that sky and pray for a lightning to strike twice. It's all fair at level 1. The 5-1 final score actually did not do justice to Tampa Bay's dominance in the game. And when you think about the lone goal for the Canadiens, Big C, it came on a scene-eye point shot from stay-at-home blue liner Ben Chariot that pinball off of Anthony Cirelli and Ryan McDowell, Big C, given the superstar. When you think about that netminder, Big C, Carey Price also denied a Stamkos Whistler at the point-blank range and extended a pad to rob Tyler Johnson in the second. The score easily could have finished 7-0, Big C. Only 3 players in NHL history have scored 30-plus points in consecutive postseason, and those great players are the great Wayne Gretzky, the great Mario Lemieux, and now Nikita Kucherov, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, and all of those guys, Charlton, are Stanley Cup champions, and the Kucherov wants to do the same thing that Gretzky and Lemieux did, win back-to-back titles, Charlton. And they always say lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. I'm going to say it will this year.
Yeah, when lightning strikes, get out. It's all fair in level war. When lightning strikes, it's all fair level war. Big C, we love that ice. Again, I want to send out a PSA to all the people all around the country that are no longer using the ice hockey arenas. Please, just like people take in cans to get 5 cents a can, take that ice and donate it to California. We could really use it. It's all fair in level war. Big C, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. The girls love the long ball and men love hitting it deep. But I gotta bring up something that I think is important, Big C, in the world of Major League Baseball, and everybody has their own opinion. Remember the public's outrage when it learned about the rampant use of steroids in baseball during the careers of these great Major League players that they say they grew size overnight, grew in size 40 pounds overnight. But when you think about it, Big C, it was a rampant use of steroids in baseball. But now that Major League Baseball is cracking down on pitchers for using illegal foreign substances, the league is being chastised. They were not chastised as much when they were cracking down on guys walking to the home plate with a needle in the back, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's a double standard when you think about it. You had guys hitting the ball out of the park at record paces, and guys setting career records for home runs in a season. I mean, it was an era in baseball where baseball was losing its popularity to the NBA and the NFL, Charlton, and even the NHL was on the rise, and baseball was slumping. And so they needed to find a way to put butts back in the seats and not just needles in the butt.
Yeah.
And so they allowed for the egregious use, Charlton, of performance enhancement drugs. And everybody knew it. You walked into a locker room and you could smell it. Matter of fact, I remember one time on television they were doing an interview with Mark McGuire, and he had the creatine bottle right up above his locker and forgot to hide it from the camera view, and it stayed there throughout the entire interview.
Wow.
So baseball was well aware of what was going on with their performance enhancement substance that the players were taking, even with the cork bats that they were using. But now when you look at baseball, Charlton, because the majority of the offenders are people of non-color, Charlton, I think baseball is looking at it in a different perspective.
That's interesting. It's a very poignant point to make. When you think about it, pitchers using the illegal substances have more of a direct effect on our performance than the steroids, Big C. Everybody and their brothers using steroids. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people were allegedly using it. But not everyone was breaking home run records. And there may have been only one, Barry Bonds or Mark McGuire or Sammy Sosa, but the pitchers have been way more dominant in obliterating strikeout records. Everyone suddenly have become a Nolan Ryan. And really it's a joke in the way pitchers were cheating and guys were going back to the dugout all the time saying that that's the best slider I've ever seen before the crowds came back. And you could actually hear the people talking about that spider tack, Big C, off the guy's fingers. And you could tell that a lot of guys were just doing what the league turned its back on, Big C, your thoughts?
There's never been an instant in baseball, Charlton, that the league did not know what was going on.
Yeah.
It's just if we don't say nothing, nothing occurs. But as you said, because fans weren't in the stands, it was more recognizable what was going because you could pay attention 100% that was going on between the lines, Charlton. You weren't distracted by other people in the fans, in the stands. And players could hear the ball coming off of the pitcher's fingers from the stickiness of the spider tack. And so they knew what was coming. When you had the scandal a couple of years ago about the Houston Astros and banging the trash cans and all of that, and you could hear it over the crowd noise, you could hear everything occurring on the mound, Charlton, because there was no crowd noise. And so baseball got exposed. And now Rob Manfred, who screwed it up egregiously, doesn't know how to get out of it, Charlton. I mean, they upheld the suspension on the pitcher from the Mariners today, and they didn't even examine the glove. Major League Baseball did not even bring the glove in for examination. They said they're going to go with the beliefs of the umpire that there was a sticky substance inside the glove. So how do you keep the rosin from sweating and dripping down your arm into the glove? Baseball is going to have to address that issue. But baseball is so ashamed of its actions and Rob Manfred is that they're not even going to examine the gloves of the players.
That's ridiculous, Big C. Even they should check whether the umpire washed his hands when he came out of the bathroom. It's all fair level war. But just like the steroid era, my opinion, that GMs would be furious signing or trading for a player who was using performance-enhancing drugs, even though I disagree to some extent. But only the players suddenly play the game clean, because either way they're forced to stop with the drug testing or suddenly found some morals, Big C. And even though people say we don't want a guy being dirty, in the last 20 plus years, there have been almost a new ballpark built in every city, except for maybe Oakland. And most of these ballparks, the home run fence has been brought in closer. Over here at Oracle Park in San Francisco, the home run park is about 308 feet to walk, McCovey Cove, right field, 308 feet. When you were down at Candlestick, I think it was about 340 feet, Big C. So they can't say they don't want to see the ball go in your yard, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, in Yankee Stadium, it's always been under 300 feet to right field, Charlton. But I remember when Robbie Anderson was center fielder for the Baltimore Orioles several years back, and he hit 50 home runs in a season, Charlton, and never gotten to half of that in his career. He'd never hit more than 25. The next season, he signs a huge contract. Drug testing comes into baseball, Charlton. He doesn't hit 25 home runs again.
Really?
His home run total dropped to less than half of what had been the previous season, Charlton, when they were using the needle freely in baseball. And that's what GMs have been upset about, is that you have these great numbers. You go out to get a free agent contract. I mean, think about Sammy Sosa.
Yeah.
He never got back into the majors, Charlton. He had the 3 greatest years in Major League Baseball history, where he hit over 180 home runs in a 3-year span. No other player, not even Bonds, did that, Charlton. To hit 180 home runs in 3 years. And Sammy Sosa did that. And he was out of baseball a year after doing that, Charlton. Mark McGwire, he was on top of the world. He and Sammy Sosa in the 60 home run race, and neither one of those guys were able to get longevity. 2 years after Barry Bonds broke the record, he was gone from Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Isn't that something, Big C? What is it? And I think I know the answer. People love seeing these guys become bigger than life, and they love to celebrate them by building new stadiums for them and making them multi-millionaires. The guys who make the most money in baseball now, they're not the guys that get on base the most. They're the guys that hit the most home runs, and people love that. Based on tonight's schedule, Big C, we have a beautiful hot day in Northern California. We have the Marlins at the Phillies. The Rays are at the Nationals. The Angels of Anaheim, they're over in the East Coast playing the New York Yankees. We can see the Mariners, and it's a shame what happened to their pitcher, but they're playing the Toronto Blue Jays over in Buffalo. The Padres, Tatis Jr., they're at the Cincinnati Reds. Big C, the Royals are playing the Red Sox at Fenway Park. The Green Monsters really kind of helping out Boston a lot, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's always a great place to play a game of baseball. The purists really love this ballpark, Charlton, because it brings that old-time flair in the play. And I believe it's still the oldest ballpark in the Major Leagues, or the second oldest ballpark in the Major Leagues.
Yeah, it's a beautiful ballpark. In fact, they've renovated it more so over the last couple of years, but it's all fair and level war. The Tigers and the Indians, they are on the delayed status. The New York Mets, the great Jacob deGrom, they're down in Atlanta playing the Braves. Are there enough chicken wings to go around with the Atlanta WNBA, the Atlanta Hawks, and also the Braves playing at Child Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you import extra chickens is what you do to make sure you have enough to go around. You go and borrow some from another state.
Be careful, they have these deer crossing signs in certain states, Big C. When you start seeing chicken crossing signs, those chickens better realize they got wings so they can fly away and not end up in the skillet. It's all fair and level war, Big C. Also, Major League Baseball, the Twins are at the White Sox. Rumor has it Tony La Russa has proven that taking a nap can help you compete for a division, Big C.
Well, you got to be relaxed when you're at the plate, Charlton. You can't be too tensed up, and that's what Tony La Russa has taught the White Sox. He's taught the young fellas how to relax and enjoy the year.
Yeah, he has to teach them how to relax. The Cubs are at the Brewers, Big C. The Baltimore Orioles at the Astros down there in Texas. The Diamondbacks at the Cardinals. The Pirates are at the Rockies. The Rangers are at the Oakland A's that are doing their thing. And the first place team in baseball, the San Francisco Giants, they're at the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers down at Sylvester Bean. And the Dodgers got the better of them last night. I thought the Giants gave away a game. But this is West Coast finest versus West Coast finest, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the Dodgers got up early. They started the game with back-to-back home runs, Charlton, and the Giants never recovered.
Yeah, they never recovered. It's all fair and level. Well, I wish everybody nothing but the best, especially down there seeing Sylvester Bean, that beautiful Dodger Stadium, and everybody having a great time. Big C, I want to touch on something before we come up on our close. We know we always talk about Major League Baseball and the College World Series and how so many people love the game of baseball and how a lot of kids play from Little League Baseball, hoping they get their chance at the Major League someday, Big C. College World Series, them good old boys, the Vanderbilt Athletic, when you think about it, Director Candace Story Lee on Tuesday condemned the use of racially offensive language directed at some of the parents of the Commodores players during Game 1 of the College World Series Finals. Since he's deeply troubled at the time our student athletes' parents were subject to racist slurs during the night's game, and that she tweeted that out, Big C. It's absolutely unacceptable, disgraceful behavior, and such hateful language has no place in our society, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it don't. You know, you think about the state of Mississippi and how, ABC it is towards people of color, Charlton, and it always has been. This is the only state in the United States that does not celebrate the Martin Luther King holiday. So you think about how racist the state is, Charlton, that they won't recognize the history of blacks in this country, even though they were the reason this state was able to survive economically. Yeah. And here in 2021, that families of black children playing against your opponent have to sit up and deal with the racial slurs and racial epithets thrown out from adults, not from the kids, Charlton, from adults sitting in the stand. The disrespect that black people still receive in America from the racial rhetoric of white people is just uncalled for.
Yeah, it's uncalled for. We got to put an end to it. Also, we have Vanderbilt and Mississippi State doing their thing, trying to win the College Baseball World Series. I'm sure a lot of those fans will realize it's about these kids and trying to have a good success and a good career in the world of baseball, trying to win the College World Series. You always have some yahoos, unfortunately, that show up and they think it's about them trying to become a knucklehead as opposed to being about the athletes that are out there trying to sacrifice and win.
Let me inject on that, Charlton. You said we have to put a stop to it. No, we don't. They do. They are the ones doing it. The person that's getting the racial vitriol thrown at them is not the person that has to bring a stop to it. It's the racist that is throwing the vitriol at them. It's just like we said about the women. Why does the victim have to be brought into this as the person that you have to question? It's the same thing in the situation, Charlton, when you're hit with racial vitriol. Why does the victim have to be the one to find the solution for it when they're not doing anything? They are the solution, Charlton. They're there watching the game, cheering on their children and the children of their children's teammates, Charlton. But, you know, you got these racist yahoos that always want to draw attention to themselves because they can't let go of what they really are. You're racist, you're racist. And it's no place for it in America. So it's not about we need to bring it into it, it's that they need to stop the crap that they're doing.
Yeah, when I say we, I think all good people can have a part. And when you see somebody doing wrong, if you do nothing about it, you tacitly consent to it. And if you do something about it, you
kick them out of the arena. But you're not changing that person just because they can no longer sit in that arena. I mean, you think about what occurred in these basketball games early in the playoffs, Charlton, when those fans ran out on the floor and spit on players and did all of those things. You think all of a sudden because they were jettisoned from the arena, that they changed themselves as a person? They said, oh, all of a sudden I feel bad now? You think the people that sit up in the stands at the College World Series in Omaha using the racial vitriol said, you know, all of a sudden I have this moral capacity about me that makes me feel bad, or is this really me as a person?
Well, some people, they don't think there's anything wrong with being ignorant, Big C. That's why I say it takes we as a society to change that. Hopefully talking about it will get decent people to change it. That's the state of
Mississippi. Think about it. Dr. Martin Luther King's holiday was granted in, 1993?
Yeah.
1993 as a federal holiday, national holiday, Charlton. The state of Mississippi, 49 states in the United States, as well as Puerto Rico, celebrated. So it's 50, one territory in 49 states.
Yeah.
The state of Mississippi is the only state in the United States that does not celebrate the holiday.
Yeah.
So how do you think the population of that state is when they refuse to recognize Martin Luther King?
Yeah, that's why I say it takes good people, irrespective of what color somebody is, to shout that down. And maybe that's the only way that I know of. If anybody has a better way, then, speak now, forever hold your peace. But it's all fair in love and war. I want to talk about this thing that's going on, because just like we want people to be treated fairly, judge people not for the color of their skin, but the content of their character, the great late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. College football also saying, give people a chance to make money based on their likeness and their ability to go out and create, Big C. College football. It happens in Wisconsin. Wisconsin quarterback Graham Mertz released a video Monday announcing the upcoming trademark of his personal brand, Big C. You'd think only Nike would be the ones announcing a trademark or release of their trademark brand. But news of Mertz's announcement, it came just days before name, image, and likeness policies begin to take effect in some states, Big C. I believe it's going to be July 1st of 2021. Thus far, 20 states have passed that name, image, and likeness law legislation, with 7 states set to take effect on Wednesday, and 8 starting later in July, Big C. The other 12 states set to implement that the name, image, and likeness legislation, have policies set to begin later in 2022 or after. Now, on Monday, the NCAA's Division I Council, it actually agreed to support the NCAA's interim NIL solution. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they have no choice. But how are you going to say you don't agree to support it when it was approved by the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
You're just a dead body. I mean, really, the NCAA is on life support when you think about it in totality. How long do they have left to last, Charlton, once players start making money off their name, image, and likeness? How do teams in the NCAA promote themselves?
Yeah.
Through the likeness of players. Every time you see a commercial for a college football game, Charlton, you're seeing the players. Every time you see one for a basketball game, you're seeing the players.
Yeah.
You're not looking at the coaches.
No.
The players are the face of these programs. Even tonight, Charlton, as the College World Series is going on in Omaha, the NCAA was promoting the players for Vanderbilt as well as Mississippi State, not the coaches, not the university. So as these commercials are being spun, how much will the players get off their name, image, and likeness done from these promotions that the TVs are doing now, Charlton? If you copyright your image as a player, which a lot of players will do, Charlton, every time a university uses that on television to promote it, and they get revenue from the NCAA, from television, from ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, ESPN, and all other networks out there, Charlton, those players are going to be entitled to get money.
Yeah, they'll be entitled. As it currently stands, Wisconsin is one of only 10 states where no legislative bill, Big C, has been introduced to address the topic. Nevertheless, as a result of the NCAA's temporary solution, players like Mertz, they can take advantage of the NIL laws in other states without fearing punishment. And alongside the Lions, Big C, where schools also announced earlier this month that it's partnered with Open Doors to launch the UW program, an initiative designed to help players capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. It's a long, long road, but we're going to get there, Big C. Your thoughts?
No, we've gotten there, Charlton. I mean, and what you saw with Mertz making the move up to the University of Wisconsin, where the state has not approved it, but it's been approved on a federal level, Charlton, and that's what matters more than anything else.
Yeah.
But by him taking the leapfrog effort, Charlton, to get out there in front of it, this kid was a starting quarterback in Wisconsin last year as a freshman. He only got a chance to play one game because of COVID-19 knocked out the season at that point.
Yeah.
But you got to realize in that one start that he had, Charlton, I believe he was 23 or 25 passes, 4 touchdowns in a blowout win. So this kid is right on the edge of greatness, and they're looking to challenge Ohio State for the Big Ten title. And if he has any type of season reminiscing of that one game that he played last year, Charlton, who knows how much money he can make.
Yeah, he's going to make a lot of money, but they're not going to beat Ohio State. Those officials are already very, very well taken care of, if that makes sense to you. You'd be nuts to think they can beat Ohio State. A Buckeye is a nut. It's all fair and level war. Speaking of one more thing I want to bring up, I was looking at some NFL ticket prices. Thank God for media passes. The least expensive ticket for the most expensive preseason or regular season game, Big C, for NHL ticket prices is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New England Patriots when Brady goes back to Foxborough. The cheapest ticket so far that I'm seeing is $1,400, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's out there on the scalpers market. I mean, season ticket holders buy a package where that does not come into play, so it won't affect them.
Yeah, it won't affect them, but I'm sure a lot of good old boys are going to reach out to that $1,500, $1,400 to see the Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know that game was already set for the Patriots to say, not in our backyard, Tom. You go back down to the southern Florida where you guys do things the wrong way. We do things the right way, as they're trying to do whatever they can to keep New England winning that game. It's all fair and level war. We have some great games in tonight, WNBA basketball, but also the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks, Big C. It's high time that somebody takes a stand like in the movie 300. Who's going to take that stand? Will it be a Buck or will it be a Hawk, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm expecting the Milwaukee Bucks to continue to dominate. I mean, how unintelligent can a team be when you know what you have the most dominant aspect of what's on the floor that night, Charlton? 2 7-footers that you can keep into the paint, and you don't have any defense on Atlanta's perspective to stop them, Charlton. You're a damn fool if you don't play that play.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It's everybody has their own right to what they choose to be. It's all fair and level war. I hope that everybody stays safe no matter what you're doing. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive always. Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young man, rumble, with all you've got to use. How can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I got to deal with that white lightning last night down in Tampa. I know moonshine, it has a kick like lightning, and so we're going to call it white lightning in Tampa, Charlton, as they take a 2-0 lead on the Montreal Canadiens, Charlton, and flight to their second consecutive Stanley Cup. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders if you drink too much White Lightning, Charlton, they'll be there to resuscitate you.
Yeah, they can resuscitate you. Don't drink too much Lightning, but you can enjoy the Lightning every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.